The man with the cane. The rain poured heavily over the small street that evening. Neon signs flickered above the closed shops, and the sound of rushing cars in the distance filled the air. In the middle of the quiet road, an old man walked slowly, with a wooden cane. His jacket looked worn, his hair untidy and his steps uneven. Most people passed him without a glance, some even avoiding him as if his presence was nothing but a shadow. 3 young men stood at the corner, smoking and laughing, loudly. Their eyes caught the old man moving slowly toward them. One of them grinned and whispered, "Look at this guy, barely standing and carrying that stick like it's the only thing keeping him alive." The second one chuckled cruelly. "Hey, old man, where you going? The retirement home?" The third added, "Maybe he's looking for spare change. Or maybe he just wants someone to pity him." They laughed louder, their voices echoing through the wet street. The old man did not respond. He lowered his head and kept walking, each step steady, though slow. His grip tightened on the cane, but his silence seemed to bother them even more. "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?" One of them sneered, stepping into his path. "Say something, old man." The old man finally looked up. His eyes were calm, almost too calm. They held a depth that the thugs did not understand. There was no fear in them, only patience. "Just let me pass," the man said softly, his voice low but steady, but the boys burst into laughter again. "Hear that? He thinks he can just walk away from us. Come on, Grandpa, show us what you got." They pushed him lightly at first, mocking the way he stumbled but quickly regained his balance. The rain splashed around them, and the cane tapped against the ground as the old man steadied himself. A woman across the street stopped to watch. She frowned, sensing something was wrong, but she was too afraid to step in. Others walked faster, pretending not to notice. It was easier to ignore cruelty than confront it. "Hey, maybe we should take his cane," one of them said with a smirk. "Let's see how long he lasts without it." The old man sighed as if tired of their noise. Then, without warning, one of the boys reached out to grab the cane. But before his fingers could wrap around it, the old man shifted. His movement was sudden, controlled, and powerful. In one swift motion, he turned the cane and knocked the thug's hand away with precision that left everyone frozen. The boy yelped, pulling his hand back. "What the—" Before he could finish, the cane tapped lightly against his chest, forcing him a step backward. The other 2 stared, confused. The old man straightened slowly, lifting his face fully into the dim light of the street. The rain glistened against his features, and for the first time, the onlookers truly saw him. The woman across the street gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Wait, that's not just any man. That's Keanu Reeves." The name carried across the street like thunder. The thugs froze, their confidence suddenly cracking. The one who had tried to grab the cane stammered, no way, that's really him." But it was. The tired jacket, the slow steps. They had all been a disguise. What they mistook for weakness was something else entirely. Keanu's eyes burned with a quiet strength that made their laughter die in their throats. "You wanted me to speak," Keanu said, his voice calm but sharp. "So listen carefully. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you give. Mocking weakness does not make you strong. It only shows how empty you are." His word struck deeper than any blow could. The boys shifted uncomfortably, their arrogance crumbling under his steady gaze. The woman across the street whispered to herself, "He's teaching them. He's showing them without anger." Keanu lowered his cane slightly, his expression softening. "Go home. Think about the choices you make. One day you'll realize how much damage careless cruelty can cause, to others and to yourselves." For a moment, no one spoke. The rain seemed to fall softer, the street quieter. The boys, pale and shaken, looked at one another, then stepped back without another word. As they disappeared into the night, Keanu resumed his slow walk, tapping his cane against the wet ground. His disguise of age and weakness had been nothing more than a mask, but his lesson had been real. And yet, as he walked on, he knew the night was not over, because behind the shadows another figure had been watching silently, someone who recognized him, Someone who had not missed the way the cane was more than just a tool. Keanu's story that night was only beginning. The shadow in the rain finally slowed, but the street was still wet and quiet. Keanu walked carefully, his cane tapping against the pavement, his breath steady. To anyone watching, he looked like a tired old man again. But the calm on his face did not match the sharpness in his eyes. He had felt it. The weight of someone else's gaze, the kind that followed with purpose, not curiosity. He turned a corner into a narrow alley, hoping to move out of sight. Puddles rippled beneath his steps, and the sound of dripping water echoed against the brick walls. It was then he heard it. Another set of footsteps, light but steady, trailing behind him. "You can stop pretending," Keanu said softly without turning. "I know you're there." A man stepped out from the shadows. His coat was dark, his face half hidden under a hood, but his voice carried clearly, impressive. "Even after all these years, you still sense when someone is near. Age has not dulled you." Keanu tightened his grip on the cane. "Who are you?" The stranger smirked. "Someone who remembers. Someone who has been waiting." The voice stirred something in Keanu's memory, though he could not place it immediately. The man continued, "You still play the humble one, walking like an old man, letting thugs mock you, only to strike when they least expect it. But tonight, you revealed too much. You showed the world who you really are." Keanu's expression remained calm, but inside, his heart stirred. "I didn't reveal anything. I only taught a lesson." The man stepped closer, the sound of his boots splashing in a shallow puddle. "A lesson, perhaps, but do you really think lessons matter in a world where cruelty is celebrated? Those boys will forget what you said by morning. People like you, people who believe in kindness. You are a dying breed." Keanu's jaw tightened. "And people like you believe cruelty is strength. But I've lived long enough to know that strength without compassion destroys itself." The stranger chuckled darkly. "You speak as though you've never been destroyed yourself. But I know your past, Reeves. The grief, the losses, the nights when you walked alone in despair. Don't pretend you have not felt broken. The difference between you and me is simple. I embraced that darkness, you fought it." The rain dripped down from the edges of the roof above, running between them like a curtain of water. Keanu raised his head slowly. "Fighting it is what makes us human." The man tilted his head, studying him. Then he said something that sent a chill through Keanu. "The cane you carry, it isn't just wood, is it? It's part of you. A weapon, a shield, a reminder. You thought no one would notice, but I did, because I've seen it before." Keanu's heart skipped. Very few people knew the truth about the cane, how it was more than a walking stick, how it carried with it a hidden strength, a secret design from years past. "What do you want?" Keanu asked firmly. The stranger's eyes glinted beneath the hood. "I want what you carry. Not just the cane, the discipline, the calm, the legacy. I want to show the world that even the kindest man can be broken. And when they see you fall, they will know that no one is untouchable." Keanu stood quietly for a long moment, letting the words sink into the night. Then slowly, he lifted his face fully into the dim streetlight. The disguise of weakness seemed to fade from his body, and his posture grew tall, unshaken. "If you've been waiting all these years to watch me fall," Keanu said, his voice steady, "then you'll have to wait longer, because I don't fight for pride. I don't fight to prove I can win. I fight for people who need someone to stand for them, people who cannot fight for themselves." The man gave a low, bitter laugh. "Then this will be interesting." With that, he turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving only the echo of his words. Keanu tightened his grip on the cane once more, staring into the empty alley. Something told him this was not the end. It was the beginning. Someone from the shadows knew too much about him, about the weapon he carried, about the pain he had endured. The thugs earlier had only been noise, a distraction. The real storm was this man, and the darkness he carried. And as Keanu walked back into the open street, his mind whispered a single truth. Whatever battle was coming, it would not be fought with fists alone. It would be fought with strength of heart. But deep inside, even he wondered, was he ready? The test of kindness, the next morning, the city woke as if nothing had happened. People rushed for buses, horns blared, and coffee shops filled with chatter. But for Keanu, the night still lingered. The words of the man in the hood replayed in his mind. Even the kindest man can be broken. He walked through a crowded street market, cane in hand, trying to blend in like always. He nodded politely when people recognized him, never refusing a smile or a picture. To them, he was a quiet celebrity, a man who seemed untouched by fame. But inside, Keanu knew eyes were still watching him. He stopped by a fruit stall where an elderly woman was struggling with heavy bags. "May I help you?" he asked gently. Her tired face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank you, son." Keanu lifted the bags with ease, walking them to her car. The woman patted his arm gratefully. "Not many stop to help these days. May God bless you." Keanu smiled faintly. Kindness always matters, no matter how small. But just as he turned to leave, a shout split the air. "Stop, thief!" Across the market, a young boy, no older than 14, darted between stalls, clutching a wallet. Behind him, a vendor chased, red-faced and furious. The crowd watched, but did nothing. Some laughed, some shook their heads, but no one moved. Keanu's eyes locked on the boy. His steps quickened. The boy shoved past people, his breath ragged, his eyes wild with fear. Just as he reached the street, Keanu stepped in front of him. The boy collided with his chest, nearly falling. The wallet slipped from his hand, landing in a puddle. "Let me go," the boy shouted, his voice breaking. Keanu knelt slightly, his cane resting by his side. His voice was calm. "Why are you stealing, son?" "You don't understand," the boy cried, trying to push away. "I have no choice." The vendor rushed up, grabbing the boy's arm roughly. "Thief, I'll teach you a lesson you won't forget." The boy winced, fear filling his face. Keanu gently placed a hand on the vendor's shoulder. "Please let him speak." The vendor frowned. "Speak? He's a criminal." "He's a child," Keanu replied softly. "Sometimes desperation drives mistakes. Punishment without listening only creates more pain." The boy's eyes welled with tears. "My sister, she's sick. We have no money. I just wanted to buy her medicine. Please believe me." The vendor hesitated, his anger softening for a moment. Keanu looked into the boy's trembling eyes. He saw the same desperation he once carried in his own heart years ago when loss had nearly consumed him. "What's your name?" Keanu asked. "Daniel," the boy whispered. Keanu nodded. "Daniel, stealing is not the way. But I will not let you carry this alone. Take me to your sister, let me see for myself," the crowd murmured. Some scoffed, others whispered that the old man with the cane was crazy, but Keanu's voice left no room for doubt. Reluctantly, Daniel led him through winding streets to a tiny apartment. Inside, a frail girl lay on a thin mattress, her breathing shallow. Her eyes opened weakly when she saw her brother. "It's okay, Lily," Daniel whispered, kneeling by her side. "I'm here." Keanu looked around the small room. There was nothing. No food, no warmth, only silence and sickness. His chest tightened. He turned to Daniel. "You weren't lying." Daniel lowered his head, ashamed. "I didn't know what else to do." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not a thief, Daniel. You're a brother trying to protect his sister. But let me help you the right way." Tears spilled down the boy's face as he nodded. But as Keanu reached for his phone to call a doctor, the air shifted. From the corner of the darkened hallway, slow clapping echoed. The hooded man stepped into the room, his eyes glinting with cold satisfaction. "Beautiful," he said softly. "Always the savior. Always the one who believes. But tell me, Reeves, how many times can you put yourself in danger for strangers before it finally breaks you?" Keanu stood tall, his cane steady in his hand. "I will keep helping no matter the cost, Because if kindness breaks me, at least I will have lived with purpose. The man's smile turned sharp. Then let's see how much purpose you can endure before everything you love crumbles. Daniel and his sister stared in fear as the tension thickened. The boy clung to Keanu's sleeve, whispering, "Don't let him take us." And in that moment, Keanu knew. The fight was no longer about him. It was about every innocent soul the shadow wanted to crush. The weight of protection. The hooded man stood just inside the doorway, rain dripping from his coat, his hands resting calmly at his sides. Yet everything about his presence carried danger. His eyes moved slowly from Daniel to Lily, then back to Keanu. "So this is it," the man said, his voice low and deliberate. "You, the great Keanu Reeves, lowering yourself to play guardian of the weak. You could live in luxury, untouched, untouchable. But instead you carry the burdens of strangers. Do you think it makes you noble? No. It makes you vulnerable." Keanu's grip tightened around his cane, though his voice stayed calm. "Strength without compassion is emptiness. I will not watch children suffer while I look away." The man tilted his head slightly, a faint smile curling at his lips. "Then I will test you, not your body. I already know you can fight. No. I will test your heart, because once the heart breaks, even the strongest body follows." Daniel pressed closer to Keanu, his small frame trembling. Lily coughed weakly on the bed, her thin hand gripping the blanket. Keanu's voice softened as he leaned slightly toward them. "Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you." The man chuckled, a sound that sent chills through the room. "Bold words. Let's see if you can keep them." He stepped backward into the shadows, his figure blending with the dark hallway. "This is only the beginning." And then he was gone. For a long moment, silence hung heavy in the small room. Only the sound of Lily's shallow breathing filled the air. Daniel finally spoke, his voice breaking. "He's going to come back, isn't he?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Yes, but when he does, we'll be ready." "How?" Daniel asked, his eyes wide with fear. Keanu looked down at his cane, running his hand along its smooth surface. "By remembering that fear only controls us if we allow it. Courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about protecting what matters even when fear tries to stop us." He stood and dialed a number. Within an hour, a doctor arrived to check on Lily. Keanu paid for medicine, food, and clean blankets without hesitation. Daniel watched with wide eyes, whispering to his sister, "He's real. He's actually helping us." As the night deepened, Keanu stayed by their side. He made tea for the doctor, carried water for Lily, and even fixed the broken lock on the apartment door. Every movement was quiet, humble, deliberate. Yet even as he worked, his mind replayed the words of the hooded man. "I will test your heart." The next day, Keanu took Daniel with him to buy supplies. The boy walked beside him nervously, looking around as though shadows followed them. "Why are you helping us?" Daniel asked suddenly. "You don't even know us." Keanu paused in the middle of the street, looking down at the boy. "Because once a stranger helped me when I was broken, I never forgot it. Kindness doesn't need reasons. It only needs courage." Daniel stared at him for a long moment, then lowered his gaze. "I don't want you to get hurt because of us." Keanu placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Protecting people is never a waste. Remember that." But even as he said the words, danger was already moving closer. That evening, as Keanu returned with Daniel to the small apartment, they found the door slightly open. His heart tightened. He motioned for Daniel to stay behind him. Slowly, silently, he pushed the door wider. Inside, the room had been torn apart. The small table lay broken, food scattered across the floor. Lily's bed was empty. Daniel's voice cracked in panic. No, where's Lily? Where's my sister?" A single note lay on the bed where she had been. Keanu picked it up, his jaw tightening as he read the words. "You wanted to protect. Now prove how far you'll go. Meet me at midnight alone or the girl pays the price." Daniel's knees buckled and he fell to the floor, tears streaming down his face. He took her. He took my sister. Keanu crouched, lifting the boy's chin gently. Daniel, listen to me. We will get her back, I promise you. But Daniel shook his head, his voice breaking. He's too powerful. We're nothing. He'll destroy us. Keanu's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. Then let him come for me, because I have faced darkness before, and I will not stop now. Not while your sister needs me. The boy's sobs quieted, though fear still trembled in his eyes. Keanu stood tall, gripping his cane tightly. The night ahead would not be easy. He knew the man in the hood was not just after him. He wanted to shatter the very belief that kindness could survive cruelty. But Keanu had made his choice long ago. No matter the cost, he would stand. And as the clock ticked toward midnight, he prepared himself for the confrontation that would test not only his strength, but also his heart. Midnight confrontation. The city was quiet at midnight. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and shining under the dim glow of streetlights. Keanu walked slowly, his cane tapping against the ground, his eyes sharp and focused. The note in his pocket burned like fire. Meet me at midnight alone, or the girl pays the price. Daniel had begged to come with him, but Keanu refused. Your strength is staying with your sister when she returns. Mine is bringing her back. The boy had cried silently, gripping Keanu's sleeve, but finally let go when he saw the determination in his eyes. The meeting place was an abandoned train station at the edge of the city. Its walls were covered in graffiti, the glass windows cracked, and the silence inside carried an eerie weight. Keanu stepped through the broken doors, his cane echoing against the hollow floor, and then he heard it, the faint sound of coughing. Lily. His heart tightened. He followed the sound to the center of the platform. There she was, tied to a chair, her small face pale but her eyes wide with fear. Lily, Keanu whispered softly, moving closer. But before he could reach her, the hooded man emerged from the shadows, slow and deliberate. Stop right there. Keanu froze, his cane steady in his hand. You said to come alone. I kept my word. Now let her go. The man smirked beneath his hood. Always the noble one. But you still don't understand. This was never about the girl. She is only the mirror. I wanted to see what you would sacrifice, how far you would go. And here you are, walking into the dark for someone you barely know. Keanu's eyes narrowed. Innocence is not a stranger. Protecting her is reason enough. The man laughed bitterly. And that is your weakness. You bleed for everyone, and in the end you will bleed dry. He stepped closer, circling around Lily, his voice taunting. Tell me, Reeves, do you know why I chose you? Because you are the last symbol people still believe in. They think you are untouchable, the good man in a cruel world. But I will break that image. I will show them you can fail. Keanu's voice was calm, but his eyes burned. You misunderstand. Failing isn't falling. Failing is refusing to stand back up. I've fallen before. I've lost before. But I never stopped standing. The man's smile faded slightly. We'll see. With a snap of his fingers, two masked men stepped from the shadows. Their eyes were cold, their movements sharp. They circled Keanu slowly, each holding a heavy iron pipe. Lily whimpered, her small voice trembling. Please don't hurt him. Keanu turned his head just enough to meet her eyes. His voice softened, carrying warmth even in the danger. Don't be afraid, Lily. Everything will be all right. Then, in one swift movement, the first masked man lunged. Keanu moved with a speed that defied his disguise. The cane spun in his hand, striking the pipe aside with a sharp crack before sweeping low to knock the man's legs out from under him. The second attacker came from behind, but Keanu twisted, his cane pressing into the man's chest with precise force, sending him stumbling backward. The fight was quick, controlled, and quiet. Keanu's movements were not about showing power. They were about ending the danger with precision. Within minutes, both men lay on the ground, groaning, their weapons scattered. The hooded man clapped slowly, his eyes glinting. Impressive. The world will always cheer for the fighter. But this isn't about fists or canes, Reeves. This is about your heart. He stepped closer to Lily, placing a hand on the back of her chair. Choose. Either walk away now and save yourself, or stay and watch her suffer for your pride. Keanu's chest rose heavily. You call this a choice? No. Cruelty disguised as choice is not power. It is cowardice. The man's smile twisted into a snarl. You still don't see it. Kindness will destroy you. One day you will give too much, and there will be nothing left. Keanu raised his cane slowly, his voice firm but calm. Then let it destroy me. Because a life lived without kindness is not a life at all. The hooded man's eyes flickered with something Keanu had not expected. Doubt. For just a second, the mask of cruelty cracked, and beneath it was something raw. But as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. With a hiss of frustration, he shoved Lily's chair forward and disappeared into the shadows, leaving his men behind. Keanu rushed forward, cutting the ropes that bound her. Lily's thin arms wrapped around his neck as she sobbed. You came. You really came. He held her gently, whispering, Of course I did. You're safe now. Daniel appeared at the doorway, his eyes wide with fear and relief. Lily. He ran to her, hugging her tightly. I thought I lost you. Keanu placed a hand on both their shoulders. You'll never lose each other. Not while you hold on. But deep inside, he knew the battle was not over. The hooded man had not been defeated, only challenged. And men who lived in darkness did not vanish so easily. Still, as he watched Daniel hold his sister, Keanu felt a quiet truth burn within him. No matter how many battles came, no matter how many shadows tried to break him, he would continue to stand. Because sometimes, one act of kindness was enough to change a life. And maybe, just maybe, enough to change the world. The final truth, the night after Lily was rescued, was quiet. Almost too quiet. The city outside seemed normal again, but Keanu knew the storm was not finished. The hooded man's words still echoed in his mind. I will break your heart, and the world will see you fall. Keanu sat by the window of the small apartment, his cane resting across his knees. Daniel and Lily were asleep in the other room, their breathing soft and steady. For the first time in days, they were safe. But Keanu's eyes never closed. He knew darkness did not retreat so easily. Just before dawn, a soft knock rattled the door. Keanu rose slowly, cane in hand, and opened it. Standing there, calm and unshaken, was the hooded man. This time his hood was lowered, revealing a face weathered by age and pain. His eyes were sharp, but behind them was something deeper. Sorrow. You didn't run, Keanu said quietly. The man stepped inside, his voice low. I never meant to. I wanted you to see the truth. Keanu studied him carefully. What truth? The man's jaw tightened. That kindness is fragile. I wanted to show you that protecting others will only break you in the end. Keanu's voice stayed calm. Then why target children? Why bring them into your war? The man's eyes flickered. Because I was once that child, and no one protected me. I learned the hard way that the world doesn't save the weak. It uses them, chews them up, and spits them out. I survived by becoming the very cruelty that once crushed me, and I wanted you to see, to admit, that compassion cannot change this world. Keanu's heart ached at the words. He saw not only an enemy but a broken soul shaped by pain. He leaned slightly on his cane, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. You think cruelty made you strong, but look at you. You're still carrying the boy who was abandoned, still living in his shadow. Cruelty didn't free you. It chained you. The man's breathing grew uneven, his eyes hard. Don't speak as if you know me. I don't need to know you, Keanu replied softly. I only need to see what's in your eyes: pain, anger, loneliness. I've lived with those too, but I chose not to let them define me. I chose to rise with kindness, because that's what kept me alive when everything else was gone. For a long moment, silence filled the room. The man's hands trembled slightly. He turned away, his voice breaking. I wanted to prove you were like me, that even you would crumble. Keanu stepped closer. And what did you see? The man's shoulders sagged. I saw someone who stood even when it hurt. Someone who kept choosing compassion. And I hated you for it, because it showed me what I could never be. Keanu's voice softened further. It's never too late, you don't have to stay in the dark. The man laughed bitterly, but there was no strength left in it. Maybe for you, but not for me. I've gone too far. With that, he turned toward the door. But know this, Reeves. The world will still try to break you, and one day it may succeed. Keanu did not stop him. He only said quietly, if it does, I'll rise again. Because that's what kindness does. It gets back up. The man paused, his back stiff, then disappeared into the morning light. When Daniel and Lily woke, they found Keanu still sitting by the window, the cane across his knees, his eyes calm. Is it over? Daniel asked nervously. Keanu gave a small nod. For now. The darkness may return, but so will we. And as long as we choose to stand together, we cannot be defeated. Lily smiled weakly, leaning against her brother. You saved us. Keanu shook his head gently. No, you saved me. You reminded me why I keep standing. Because every act of kindness, no matter how small, matters. It changes lives. It changes the world. And as the sun rose over the city, washing away the shadows of the night, Keanu walked out with his cane, blending once more into the crowd. To the world, he was just a man with tired eyes and a wooden stick. But for those who had seen his heart, he was something far greater, a reminder that even in the darkest places, kindness still stood tall.